It is official. After 8 straight seasons of winning the National League West, the Los Angeles Dodgers have finally won a World Series in 2020, in the dawn of quite possibly a new dynasty, or quite possibly the middle or the end of a new dynasty in baseball. Doesn't even matter. This year they actually won it. Very impressed by the Los Angeles Dodgers for putting up an amazing season. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. I'm James Sims, and every time a big team in one of the sports that I'm covering wins a championship, I do a profile on the team just to show how they did throughout the entire season, just to lay everything out, the entire path for how they got here. And of course, just starting off with last season, after they lost to the Washington Nationals in the NLCS, they made it a point to get Mookie Betts. They traded for Mookie Betts in the offseason, and of course, they re-signed him to a $300 million contract, all while retaining the basic core of their team. They had the reigning National League MVP from last year, Cody Bellinger, to add. And then they added Mookie Betts to that. They now have 3 players on their roster that were former MVPs. In terms of just the players that they brought up, Will Smith eventually eased his way into that catcher role after all the years they've kind of been working with Yasmani Grandal and working on the transition to Austin Barnes. They were able to settle with Will Smith. Max Muncy was able to have an amazing year at first base, finishing with 12 home runs and 27 RBIs on the season. And Kike Hernandez would settle into the second place spot, who played a lot of great second base for the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. Corey Seager would grow into a superstar role, and I think that by the time the next MLB season starts, he will have an elite profile by then. Also, Justin Turner's been amazing at third base, as he's kind of been the veteran that's been there this entire time for this entire playoff run, and it all paid off. It all paid off for him. AJ Pollock, they got from in the left field after picking him up from Arizona after all the injuries that he's had. He's been an amazing player through the regular season and especially in the playoffs. Cody Bellinger was running center field, of course, after winning the MVP last year. He kind of fell off a bit in the regular season, but he most definitely showed his worth in the playoffs in a lot of different moments, most notably the big home run in Game 7 against the Atlanta Braves. And of course, in right field, Mookie Betts has most definitely been killing it. Yet another MVP in the outfield for the Los Angeles Dodgers, who's more than shown that he belongs in the National League, finishing with a .292 batting average, 16 home runs, tied with AJ Pollock for the team lead, and he had 39 RBIs, second on the team to Corey Seager. And then a designated hitter, they mostly rocked Jock Peterson, who ended up with 7 home runs and 16 RBIs in 43 games played. And then, of course, off the bench, you had Chris Taylor, Austin Barnes, Edwin Rios, Gavin Lux, Matt Beatty, Keibert Ruiz, all kind of coming in and filling in the certain role that they did. And, of course, under their manager, Dave Roberts, they've had an amazing season, and once again they finished at the very top of the NL West. And not even to mention their amazing pitching. Out of their starters, even with pitchers that they had that opted out, they still were able to throw out Clayton Kershaw, who of course has his own goated profile, and after taking the career lead in postseason strikeouts and his first title, that's already enough to cement him as one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Dustin May had an amazing season. He pitched a lot of baseball for someone that was a rookie, and he pitched incredibly well in the regular season, having an ERA of under 3, still amazing. He had a better ERA than Walker Buehler. I would argue he had a better season than Walker Buehler, who I still believe was an elite pitcher this year. Julio Urias was probably one of their silent MVPs for all the relief that he pitched in the playoffs and all the games that he started for the Dodgers this year. He had an incredible season. Same with Tony Gonsolin, Ross Stripling, in the bullpen, they had Kenley Jansen, who was able to finish with 11 saves on the season, finishing with a 3.33 ERA. He's not the pitcher he was in his prime, but he's still one of the most dominant closers of all time. He had Blake Trinan in relief, who was one of the best closers for the Oakland Athletics, and they moved him to the Dodgers. It took him a second to kind of adjust. Dylan Floro, Jake McGee, Victor Gonzalez, Pedro Baez, Alex Wood, Joe Kelly. Yeah, the Dodgers, and even at the end of the year, the Dodgers were the second best offensive team in baseball to the Atlanta Braves. But when it came to pitching, they were kind of a league. There was a gap between them and other teams, which kind of which all kind of came together to make the Dodgers the most dominant offensive and defensive team, dual threat. Of course, that all these teams would face in the playoffs. with that amazing regular season in hand. And of course, there were no players that were named to the All-Star team, but I imagine a good amount of those Dodgers would have been named to the All-Star team. This, of course, leads into the wild card where, of course, they had the number 1 seed. In the first game, they took on the Milwaukee Brewers. The first game, they beat them 4-2 pretty handily, not going to lie. And, of course, in this one, Corey Seager hit his first home run of many to help the Dodgers get to where they needed to be. In the second game, after completely shutting out the Brewers, Clayton Kershaw would strike out 13 batters in 8 innings to help the Dodgers get right through. And of course, scoring plays from Austin Barnes and Mookie Betts most definitely helped. And after that, they were able to advance to the division series where they took on the 4th seed San Diego Padres, who had the second best record in the entire NL East, or in the entire National League, better than the Atlanta Braves at that time. But the Braves still got the 2nd seed and the Padres got 4th because that's how the seeding worked. And looking at that series, after the Padres had already flexed and shown that they might be the team that takes over the NL West once the Dodgers are done, but the Dodgers said it wasn't their time yet. Of course, in this game, in the first game, the Dodgers would beat them 5-1 off an amazing pitching performance from Dustin May. In the second game, it would be a very close game that went down to the wire. But of course, the Dodgers would keep the San Diego Padres really from coming back. Cody Bellinger also had an amazing home run, and they were just able to keep the Padres from blowing the game wide open. Something that you've seen the Padres do a good amount this season. And after taking the 2-0 lead going into Game 3, Julio Urias would eventually get the win for the Los Angeles Dodgers, beating the Padres 12-3 after scoring 5 runs in the 3rd inning to put them up. Even Will Smith ended up having an incredible game that day, and they would go on to face the Atlanta Braves, who going into the NLCS also hadn't lost a game, and I would argue they had a better playoffs going into that series than the Dodgers did. And the Braves would eventually go up 3-1 after beating the Dodgers 10-2 in Game 4. In Game 5, the Dodgers would eventually start coming back. That one in Game 5, Blake Trinan would pick up the win. The Dodgers scored 3 runs in the 6th and the 7th inning off of a Will Smith home run, and then Corey Seager would also hit a big home run for the Los Angeles Dodgers to put them up. That would make it 3-2. In Game 6, the Dodgers would beat the Braves 3-1 after Seager and Turner homered in the first inning, along with Cody Bellinger having an RBI single. That would be the only score they got all game, and Walker Buehler and the Dodgers bullpen would hold the Braves to only 1 run for the entire game, even though they allowed 9 hits. And then going into the final game, it would be tied at 3, and then Cody Bellinger would hit the home run in the bottom of the 7th that sent the Los Angeles Dodgers into the World Series. Of course, after beating Urias against a very formidable Braves team that I think is going to be stronger next year. But I think that's going to be the series to watch in the National League, because I think after seeing how the Dodgers beat the Rays, the Braves would have beat the Rays too. But an amazing performance for the Dodgers for coming back after being down 3-1 to beat the Atlanta Braves. And then once they secured a spot for themselves in the World Series, in Game 1, they beat the Rays 8-3. Bellinger would hit a home run. It was a lot of offense from the Los Angeles Dodgers, but at the same time, Clayton Kershaw was wheeling and dealing, only allowing 1 earned run and striking out 8 batters in 6 innings. Game 2, the Tampa Bay Rays would take this game. Blake Snell would get the start. Nick Anderson this time would actually get the win for them. And of course, in this game, the Tampa Bay Rays kind of dominated from this one. They wanted to show the Dodgers that they were a formidable team. In Game 3, the Dodgers took that one, of course, after blowing it wide open after scoring 5 of their 6 runs in the first 4 innings. The Los Angeles Dodgers, of course, were able to take Game 3, and Walker Buehler had an amazing game, only allowing 1 earned run and striking out 10 batters in 6 innings pitched. Jumping out to Game 4, the Rays would barely beat the Dodgers in the very end off of a wild play where Will Smith kind of dropped the ball. I think that was kind of odd. A lot of that was on Will Smith, but that was incredible base running from Randy Arozarena and the Tampa Bay Rays. And with the win, it was 2-2. And then Game 5, the Los Angeles Dodgers would beat the Rays on Sunday. And that one, Jock Peterson would hit a big home run. Max Muncy would hit a big home run to kind of secure for the Dodgers, even though Randy Arozarena and the Braves were really trying really hard to get in this. Clayton Kershaw picked up his 2nd win of the World Series, allowing only 2 runs and striking out 6 batters in almost 6 innings pitched. And, of course, jumping in the last night, Victor Gonzalez would get the win and, of course, a bullpen outing for the Dodgers. And Mookie Betts would, of course, be the one that secured it, at least from the plate for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was a long time coming. I think now as of right now, the Los Angeles Dodgers are sitting on, I believe, their 8th World Series right now, and it was just a long time coming for the Los Angeles Dodgers, considering their streak of winning the NL East started in 2013 when Clayton Kershaw won his second Cy Young, and then he won the MVP the year after. I mean, they lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS in 2013. They lost to the Cardinals in 2014 in the NLDS. They lost to the Mets in 2015 when the Mets went on to go to the World Series. They lost to the Cubs in 2016 when the Cubs went on to win the World Series. They lost to the Astros in 2017 in the World Series. They lost to the Red Sox in 2018 in the World Series against Mookie Betts. They lost to the Nationals in the NLDS in 2019, or last year, and then this year they finally won it. Incredible way to battle all the way back from down 3-1 in the NLCS to eventually get this championship. And alongside the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Dodgers are also 2020 champs, and Los Angeles once again is a city of champs. Thanks once again for listening to my piece. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020 out here in this quarantine. I guess in terms of baseball, I'll see you on opening day, and I hope you have an amazing day. Once again, thanks for listening to my piece. I'm James Sims. This is The Elite, and peace out.